Hey guys, how we doing? So we're back on another Mother's Basement video. I love it when he talks about My Hero Academia. In fact, I just love My Hero Academia themed videos altogether. Love the anime, love it when we can just talk about random stuff. And I will get around to doing his OP on the recent season, but apparently there's spoilers, so I'm waiting for it to finish and then we'll check it out. But he's done this video called United States of Smash, Animelee, All Might versus All for One, which was an amazing fight, incredible fight. Awesome fight, and I want to see what he has to say on the matter. It's a long video as well, so get yourself a drink and let's get into this. United States of Smash, Animelee, All Might versus All for One.
What is it that makes a great fight scene great? What separates the contenders from the also-rans? Join me as I pick through the best fights in anime, scrape by scrape and blow by blow to find out. I'm Jeff Thu, and this is Animelee.
Cool.
Today we're going back to the world of My Hero Academia to take a look at what I think is this show's best fight so far, and one of the all-time best fights in anime, period.
Wow.
All Might versus All for One does
shout.
everything that a good fight scene needs to, and goes beyond. It has some of the highest stakes of any fight in the series, putting the life of a character that at least some of us care about on the line, while also effectively putting the stability of the entire world at risk. These stakes and their payoff feel well-earned from a narrative standpoint, as the series has built up All for One as a villain since we first saw All Might's crippling injury. Yet it comes as a legitimate surprise, and a pleasant one at that, since, well, you don't expect to see the strongest villain in your superhero story show up unannounced for a final showdown with your strongest hero at the climax of Act Friggin' 1. Well, unless you caught all of the anime's subtle Star Wars allusions, then you might have expected to see Vader take Obi-Wan out a little early, but even then, this battle goes down with a lot more fanfare and explosions than that iconic Star Wars scene. The animators went all out with just about every second of this fight, packing it with sakuga and interesting poses and shot compositions, while going the extra mile even in shots where they could have taken easy shortcuts. It features some of the best uses of the show's incredible soundtrack to date, which underscore a number of powerful, game-changing story beats. Because, yeah, this fight tells a story, and a hell of a good one that marks a turning point
it really does.
for the
There's a lot
show's
to
entire universe. And on top of that, the fight choreography is exciting and creative, speaking to both the personalities and the skill sets of every character involved. Yes, even though All for One chooses to throw a real big punch instead of using all the less conventional abilities at his disposal, but we'll get to that. Actually, no, I've got to break format to address this.
Go on, get into it.
A lot of this show's detractors have come down on this fight as being uncreative, boring, and just more punching. And while it would be silly and arrogant of me to sit here and tell you that you're wrong if you were bored watching this fight, everyone reacts to things differently.
Definitely.
I will tell you that you're wrong if you say it's lazy or thoughtless. There's a lot of actual strategy going on in this fight, which we'll get to in a second, but it's also important to consider the intention.
He's trying to play with his head as well as trying to beat him.
What All for One is trying to accomplish in the fight. Because his goal is not just to kill All Might, it's to kill him in the most painful way possible, and to destroy everything that he represents. To tear down the symbol of peace that he spent his entire life working to create. Not just because he knows that shaking people's faith in heroes will facilitate a new era of villainy, but because he holds All Might personally responsible for destroying the criminal enterprise that he spent his entire life building. He wants revenge. Plain and simple. It's questionable if he even could win with some insane combination of teleportation and claws and other stolen powers, since All Might's whole thing is being strong enough to take on many different villains with different powers at once. But moreover, it wouldn't send the same message. All Might is a guy who can punch any evil, no matter how strong, and make it go away. So if a villain shows up on national television and punches him back even harder, that instantly destroys his symbolic value. And All for One cares a lot about symbolic value. That's why he plucked Nana Shimura's grandson off the streets and groomed him to be his successor, knowing it would devastate All Might. That's why after a lifetime spent working from the shadows, he was willing to step into the spotlight just for a shot at ruining All Might's reputation. That's why he's okay with ultimately losing and being sent to jail, because he knows that his absence will motivate Shigaraki to achieve new heights of villainy. But I am getting way ahead of myself by talking about this now, so let's work our way back to the beginning of the fight.
The setup.
Which, to simplify things, I'm gonna say is the moment when All Might comes soaring in to punch the supervillain, and not the moments where he uses his powers to attack him remotely and stuff like that, since they're more setup than anything else. On that note, what is the setup for this fight? All For One and All Might have a long history.
Yep.
All Might's power, One For All, was created by All For One, and yes, that does get really confusing when you're reading it in the script.
Yeah.
Using his ability to steal and redistribute quirks, which is also called All For One, and that also gets confusing, to
But we'll
toy
ignore
with
that.
his seemingly quirkless brother long ago. The strength stockpiling quirk that he gave to his brother merged with his dormant ability to pass on quirks to others, creating an inheritable super strength quirk that would get stronger as it was passed
on,
down.
yeah.
And every carrier of One For All since then has been training and building power with the aim of stopping the tyrannical megavillain.
Mm-hmm.
After his predecessor and mentor Nana Shimura died trying, All Might was the one who actually pulled it off and stopped All For One once and for all. God, gotta stop writing
Once
stuff
for
like
all.
that. But it cost him dearly, injuring him to the point that he can only fight crime for an hour
A little
each
bit of
day,
time, yeah.
and he didn't quite finish the job. All For One spent the following years reclaiming his lost power, building up the League of Villains
Yep.
in the shadows with his
Slowly
crippled
growing
body,
his strength
and
back.
grooming Shigaraki to take his place as its leader
Love
in
it.
order to one day
Love
destroy
that.
the man who destroyed him. All Might was also forced to choose a successor, Deku, who
Mhm.
could carry on as the new symbol of peace in the
Midoriya.
Beacon hero's absence. Knowing that the strength of One For All would one day be needed, both as a light to keep villains at bay and a weapon
to
to
fight
stop
him.
All For One if he ever returned. After Deku's class was attacked by the League of Villains and fended them off a few times, Shigaraki laid eyes on his childhood frenemy, the hot-headed Bakugo. Shigaraki had the League kidnap him during their raid on
Oh
Class
my God, that
1A's
was
summer
amazing.
training camp, thinking he could make the brash
Got
young
it.
hero pull a Sasuke and join the villains.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for him, Bakugo responds to this by being all like, nah, fuck you, I want to be Naruto,
Bam,
in
bam.
one of my favorite character-defining moments in the entire series.
Yeah, it was class
and
when-
right
'cause
after that,
of all of them,
Might
you'd think
Go
he'd be
show
a bad
up to
guy.
crash the party. They
He's like,
managed
no.
to restrain all the villains in seconds with a carefully laid out plan, while Best Jeanist and Mount Lady capture all of the Nomus in the warehouse in
Amazing.
order to prevent them from calling for backup. But then All For One shows up out of nowhere,
God,
takes
that's
all
awesome.
the heroes out at the warehouse, and
Best
uses a
Jeanist.
teleportation quirk to rescue the League and send the Nomus as a consolation
Yeah,
prize.
that's class.
Right off the
It's like,
bat,
whoa,
this
what's going on?
introduction confirms All For One's status as the top-tier threat that the story's been
He
building
can do
up.
so
He
much
takes
stuff.
out two of the strongest
Focus.
heroes
Yeah.
we've met so far like it's nothing,
Doesn't
and
care.
eliminates the
Bam.
advantage created by dozens of heroes and cops working together single-handedly
Instantly.
within the space of 2 minutes.
Yeah,
He
just
comes
like,
across
boom,
as overwhelmingly
forget your
powerful.
plan.
His appearance accompanied by a haunting operatic theme song straight out of a horror
So
anime that's unlike
friggin',
anything we've heard
like,
in the show
creepy, I
so
love
far,
it.
because he's a threat unlike any the heroes have faced so
Mm-hmm.
far. And as All Might comes flying in to fight him, he's got some big problems to solve.
The
The
fight.
most fundamental building block of any good fight is what I like to call the question. It's the core problem that each combatant needs to answer if they're going to win.
Well,
In
like-
a boring fight, the question is something along the lines of, are you stronger than that other guy? And the answer is just, yeah, or no, but this new power I just pulled out of my ass is. In a great
And
fight,
boom.
the question is something uniquely challenging for your hero, and the answer is something interesting that only they could come up with. This fight poses two really interesting questions right out of the gate. All Might is immediately thrown into a stalemate with All For One because he needs to figure out how to fight the world's greatest supervillain while both protecting Bakugo
Oh, yeah,
from
he's
the other
got all that
villains who
stuff
want to
going on.
kidnap him again and holding back so that he doesn't hurt the person he's there to save.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Deku and his friends hidden behind the wall are faced with their own question. They
Like,
have the element of
what
surprise
do
and
we
are the
do?
only people with any chance of turning the tide of this battle, but whatever they do, they can't use their quirks to attack the villains because without
know
a
where they
hero
are.
license, that's against the law. And as aspiring law enforcement agents, that's kind of a big deal and a moral
so
line that they
intense.
just
Like,
don't
what do we
cross. At
do?
least Ida doesn't. Deku is all gung-ho to do it. Also, they don't want to get killed. To make
Yeah, there's
matters
that.
worse, they're on a tight time limit, as All For One has used one of his many quirks to forcibly activate the unconscious Kurogiri's warp
Brilliant, they
quirk.
could do that.
If any
It's
of the
the
6
force
villains
quirk.
fighting Bakugo manages to capture him, they'll be able to escape with him in a matter of seconds. And with the heroes inbound following their dicey escape, they're now desperate enough to be willing to hurt Bakugo in order to catch him quickly. The initial skirmish that happens as Deku works through this problem is meant to sell the overwhelming power of All For One, with him knocking All Might through several city blocks
Oh
in
my
a single
God.
blow, while creating a sense of chaos as Bakugo is attacked from all sides with a wide variety of powers. The cuts here are fast, and the direction of the action on screen changes almost constantly.
He does such a good job, though,
This
Bakugo,
chaotic
defending
effect
himself.
becomes most pronounced as Deku starts thinking of the battlefield like a game board and trying to come up with possible strategies. Every time he realizes an option won't work, we cut to another attack from the villains. This editing really helps to convey his panicked mindset and make us feel the tension that he's feeling. Not an easy thing to do when your protagonist is just standing there thinking.
Yeah.
Despite this not being the main event, a lot of care went into the action animation here in order to make this scene fun to watch. There's a lot of character packed into the tiny things, like the insane but playful way that Toga tosses her knives, or the casual cruelty with which All For One attacks All Might. Like this fight is trivial to him. And conversely, the desperation with which both Bakugo and All Might are forced to fight. The fight animation here doesn't just look cool, it's in character, which is one of the biggest strengths
it suits them. Like, it doesn't feel forced in any way.
Productions in general. After a few moments of action, Deku finds a solution using his coolest superpower, lateral thinking.
Gotta get Bakugo out of there so All Might can fight and go all out.
He's taking a horizontal problem and solving it with verticality. Remembering how All Might came in from the sky, he realizes that while ground routes are all cut off, he might be able to stage an air rescue. They'll be out of range of the other villains, and since All For One is keeping All Might busy, it stands to reason that the reverse would be true as well. He quickly pulls together a plan using the four most powerful abilities they have at their disposal. His and Ida's speed to propel them forward, Todoroki's ice to create a ramp that will launch them over the villains, and the most important power of all, the power of friendship. Because he knows that Bakugo will be far too stubborn to take help from him or even Ida, but as Kirishima's his best friend, he might actually go for it when he extends his hand. Through a few gorgeous and needlessly complex animation cuts, we see the plan in action as Deku explains the details. This is a nice way of showing how thoroughly he's thought through his strategy without slowing down the pace of the action scene to basically show it twice. This whole fight is packed to the brim with Sakuga, but my favorite sequence, aside from the obvious one, has to be the moment where Bakugo decides to run away. Shigaraki reaches to grab him and his body twists unnaturally in slow motion, closing in over top of him to cut off his escape. This is a really cool and clever use of perspective, and the kind of shot that's only possible when animators are given the freedom to add their own stylistic flourishes and break character models a bit. It's not visually accurate, but it conveys both Shigaraki's creepy, overbearing personality and Bakugo's stubborn, self-assured defiance in two incredible poses, neither of which is in the manga. And everything that follows, the flash as Bakugo's explosions go off, the remarkable 3D motion as he literally rockets through the air, and the fantastically elastic facial animation as he jokingly chastises Kirishima is equally impressive. I want to know who animated these shots because they deserve all the kudos. To take a broader look at the pacing of the fight, the way that the scene builds up in slow motion, using the song I Don't Need Pretend Friends to create tension before bursting into super fast action, picking up after a drop with the faster paced song Trinity, just feels great. The direction of the action also changes here. Before it was all over the place, as Bakugo was constantly
becomes more focused
now,
doesn't
pounded
it?
From all sides by the villains. But now the line of action moves quickly and consistently from right to left across the screen. This creates a sense that the heroes have broken the stalemate and are finally moving forward as things go their way. The villains attempt to give chase with Magni's quirk, but they're blocked first by Mount Lady intercepting, which was awesome. She just took it to the face, and then by Gran Torino rushing in to stop them before they get a second shot. After this burst of action, the fight slows down for a moment as All Might and Gran Torino banter about Deku's impulsive behavior, and the music cuts out. It's a small victory, a moment of triumph.
It's a very you just like
to go all out, but it's over, and there's still a lot of fighting left to go. A lot. God, just look at that time code. There's still a whole episode left. What have I gotten myself into? Still, the League of Villains is down to 2, and Gran Torino is ready to take them on as All Might and All For One square off. Fearing that the entire League will be arrested and render his efforts meaningless, All For One uses Magni's magnetism to send them all flying toward Toga and their Warp taking them out of the fight. Shigaraki desperately resists, knowing that if he leaves his mentor behind now, he probably won't see him again. He has a twisted attachment to the man who saved him from the streets, even though Darth Vader over here only did it to fuck with All Might. We see legitimate heartbreak on Shigaraki's face as he's pulled through the portal,
he's like,
crying out in desperation through his chapped lips and hoarse teeth. damn, this dude is ugly. It would honestly be kind of touching if both parties involved weren't absolute monsters. But then that's another one of My Hero Academia's strengths. It makes all of its villains, even the absolute bastards, at least mildly sympathetic, creating the impression that they have emotions and relationships, albeit very twisted ones, and making them seem like real humans instead of just unfeeling monsters of the weak. All Might tries to at least use this moment as an opening to land an attack, but All For One is a step ahead of him and uses his warp quirk in combination with a shock inversion power to block the blow with Gran Torino's face and throw the force of the punch back at All Might, tearing off his shirt.
He's like, I'm so sorry!
After another punch, he uses his air blast to knock the hero back and begins monologuing, like all good villains do, about how much he hates All Might, how he's gonna destroy him, and how even with Bakugo gone, he's going to attack the civilians behind All Might to keep him from going all out. That last point really sets All Might off, and the music swells epically as he shouts back his retort, catching All For One off guard and condemning his selfishness and unearned arrogance toward people who are just trying to live their lives. Then he hammers the point home by, well, hammering it home, charging forward too fast for his enemy to react and smashing his face into the dirt, shattering his Darth Vader-esque mask with the impact. Once more, the music cuts out, and we see that All Might has pushed himself to his limit. He's on the verge of transforming back into his weakened state, but at least he's delivered the finishing blow. Or not. All For One's menacing theme picks up once again, blasting away the previously triumphant atmosphere as he reveals his most devastating taunt yet. He's heard All Might's lines about protecting people before from All Might's mentor, Nana. The implication is clear. All Might is doing no better than his predecessor, and if he keeps fighting as is, All For One is confident that he can kill him like he did her. Now All For One, though bruised and battered, once more has the upper hand. Not only is All Might's strength on the verge of giving out, but there are still a ton of civilians around who he needs to protect, putting him at a distinct disadvantage. This is another thing that's essential to a good fight, though. A feeling of organic push and pull. One side gets the upper hand, then the other does something clever or tricky to turn the tables. Or the winning side exhausts themselves without being able to deliver the finishing blow, leaving their enemy space to fight back and reclaim ground. This back and forth is what makes it feel like both sides are closely matched. So it's not a guarantee that the hero will win, but it doesn't feel like an ass pull when he actually does. You see this structure in everything from anime fights to wrestling matches, because it works. It keeps things exciting and tense, and prevents fights from feeling repetitive or one-sided. Following this ominous line from All For One, we move to the fight's second episode, opening on a flashback to a young All Might discussing his concept for a symbol of peace with his mentor, Nana. These flashbacks are the first time we've seen the start of the journey that All Might took to become the hero we know today, and it's fitting that they put them in here because this fight marks the end of that journey. They also establish how Nana inspired many of the principles fundamental to All Might's heroic identity. Most importantly, the unflappable smile that he wears to reassure the people he's saving. This context allows us to understand how important she was to All Might and what it means to be fighting her killer and hearing him insult her. And it also sets up a later scene where All Might's memories of her inspire him to get back in the fight when he's at his lowest point. Before jumping back into the fight, we cut away briefly to the kids who've escaped into the crowd and are now watching the fight unfold on TV. These scenes cement the victories earned in the last half of the fight. We now know that all of Class 1A is definitively safe and secure, while giving this second episode a bit more time to ramp back up into the action, since it would be kind of exhausting to just start where the fight left off.
After about
just
throw us back straight into it,
back to the fight with All For One pinned to the ground, taunting All Might about how Nana was foolish and weak. In part, this is a narrative ploy meant to make us hate him even more than we already do, but it's also a tactic on his part. He's trying to goad All Might into launching a big attack instead of just pummeling him with quick blows, getting the hero off balance so that he can escape from being pinned down. As we can see when he starts coughing after launching All Might away, he has actually taken quite a lot of damage from this fight, but he's working to keep up his composure because it allows him to get under All Might's skin, which he knows is the best way to beat him because, as Gran Torino tells us when he grabs All Might out of the air, that's what All For One did in their last fight before punching a hole in his stomach. A lot of the time in anime, the dialogue exchanged in a fight is just there for emotional context, so it's cool to see this villain deploying psychological warfare as part of his strategy. It makes him seem that much more devious and dangerous. In his pep talk, Gran Torino succinctly sums up the new questions posed to All Might in this stage of the fight. Can he keep his cool while fighting the man who killed his mentor? And can he find a good way to get around the overwhelming power of All For One's combined quirks and sneak in a good hit past his guard, while still defending all the civilians left around him? The cutaway to the news chopper that All Might just barely avoided crashing into establishes new higher stakes for the fight, which are needed now that Bakugo has been saved. The entire country is watching. Most of Class 1A are sitting in front of their TVs and computers, horrified, while across the country people are complaining that heroes are getting soft, with the last bastion of their faith in hero society being the belief that All Might will win this fight in the end. Which means that, if he doesn't, that faith will be shattered.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line here.
Literally destroy the planet if he beats All Might, but he may as well be, since giving the #1 hero a public beating will throw the entire nation into chaos.
Yep.
Here the show is using one of the more unique aspects of its setting, the way that one of its characters has been positioned as a pillar holding up, well, basically the entire world, and uses it to create high narrative stakes that simply wouldn't work in another setting. This also highlights a key flaw with the show's world that needs to be fixed. All of its stability is tied to a single point of failure. And things are about to get worse. All For One gets ready to fire off another blast with his air cannon, which All Might and Gran Torino are about to dodge, except at the last second, All For One points to a civilian caught in the rubble behind them. To save her, All Might takes the blow head on, and the force of it drains the last of his strength, causing him to revert to his emaciated
and then everyone sees
on live television in front of the entire country.
And no one knew that that was a thing.
Everyone watching looking surprised, and Deku looking like he just found a spider under the toilet seat as he realizes the full implications of this secret.
Yeah, he's like, oh no, people didn't know.
We cut back to the battlefield where All For One continues his taunting. This over-the-shoulder shot paints All Might as small and weak next to the towering villain, showing us the position that All For One thinks that he's in now that he's revealed All Might's secret. But a zoom into All Might's eyes filled with determination shows us that he's wrong. Even in his weakened state, the heroic spirit that made All Might a symbol of peace still burns in his heart. An idea we see embodied in this next shot as his head rises into frame until he's completely eclipsed All For One. This is a fantastic shot, both for the meaning they pack into the cinematography and the effort they put into animating it. They could have easily just used motion tweens with a static image of the back of All Might's head for roughly the same effect, but they actually redraw him as the camera moves down his back to make the shot feel more three-dimensional. One more example of Bones going plus ultra with the animation. But All For One has one more psychological weapon that he's been waiting for the right moment to deploy. His very own version of No, I am your father. The revelation that Shigaraki Tomura is Nana Shimura's grandson. And with this revelation, the already dire music stops, and the soundscape is overwhelmed once again with the villain's chilling theme song. For the first time in the series, we see All Might stunned at a loss he doesn't know what to say. As the implications of this wash over him. Intercut with flashbacks to his master's wisdom about the importance of a hero's smile, which tell us exactly how important it is that All Might keep going, and how terrible a position he must be in to have lost his smile entirely. The hollow, sunken expression that we see here is honestly just about as devastating as any of the actual hits we see doled out in this fight. The effect exaggerated by using a twisting camera to show how this information is shifting All Might's world, and by rendering his close-up face in a rough, sketchy art style that suggests he's on the verge of unraveling entirely. This is excellent use of both cinematic language and a stylistic shift that's only really possible in animation. The woman in the rubble makes a cry for help, which seemingly falls on deaf ears, and we cut to the crowd, who are falling into a panic as they watch the symbol of peace seemingly giving up while on the verge of defeat.
He has to win!
The scene then plays on one of the oldest cliches in the anime book, the world cheering for the hero to win, sending energy to his spirit bomb.
Spirit bomb, yeah, go.
Except it presents an interesting twist on the concept. This isn't some inspiring moment where all of humanity comes together. It's a moment of collective desperation and delusion, with the whole crowd trying to convince themselves, despite all evidence to the contrary, that All Might will stop the bad guy, because they are personally terrified of what it will mean for them and their society if he doesn't. That's especially true for Deku and Bakugo, who have both built their entire self-image on a desire to be All Might. So naturally, they cry out the loudest hardest and most desperately of anyone in the crowd. This makes for one hell of a gut-wrenching low point.
Yep.
But, of course, the purpose of bringing your audience down like this is so that it feels all the more impactful when you build it back up. Yeah. Though it throws him off, after taking in this information and thinking about what it really means, All Might once again flexes and responds. After a few moments where we're left wondering what state he's in, we cut to a shot of his face, smiling confidently. As much as learning this has hurt him, all that All for One has really accomplished is strengthening his resolve. Recalling his mentor's advice and the reason he became a hero in the first place, All Might summons up one last burst of strength, but he only has enough power left to bulk up one arm. Still, All for One is on edge because he knows that when he's injured and backed into a corner, All Might is at his most dangerous. A particularly great line for what it implies. Because if he could see All Might's face when he was doing that, that means that All Might beat his ass blind after he was eviscerated, and that's pretty badass, though not as badass as what comes next. All for One comes up with a rough estimation that All Might has 2 or 3 uses of his power left before he's spent, meaning those next few hits need to really count. But then he gets an assist as Endeavor and Edgeshot arrive to stop All for One from attacking again. And as Endeavor arrives, he starts yelling at All Might, angry that he's so shriveled and weak. This ends up being a huge turning point for him as a character.
You're meant to be the number one.
Inside his head shows us that he's been chasing All Might's back for years, not unlike Deku, or perhaps more appropriately Bakugo, and he did horrible things to his wife and child in a vain attempt to close that gap through other means. Now, seeing that All Might is just a man, and a pretty weak one at that, he's faced with the truth that it was all for nothing. Naturally, this makes him pretty mad. Right now, he's mad at All Might, but after a bit of reflection, this moment will spark a lot of growth for him as a character moving forward in the story. The pro-heroes step in to distract All for One while their colleagues rescue civilians in the vicinity, leaving All Might finally free to fight unimpeded. All Might's position as the #1 hero has allowed him to inspire a lot of other heroes, including the ones helping him right now. He may have started out as the sole pillar holding up Hero Society, and that may be what he is right now, but as I said in my video, it all comes back to All Might. I believe that the kids that he's teaching now will collectively form an even stronger foundation for society in the future, becoming an entire group of the greatest heroes, and Mineta, instead of producing just a single great hero in Deku. But we don't have much time for optimistic story theories, as All for One is still here to ruin the mood, blowing away Edgeshot and the other
amazing
heroes
superheroes
by firing his air cannon into the ground. Despite this show of strength, his tone has changed. He's still trying to laugh and mock All Might, but he's getting angry now, noticeably losing. Yeah,
he's like, come on, I should have won this by now.
He buffs up his arm into a twisted mass of flesh and metal with
everything that he has.
Ultimate combination of muscle boosting and strength enhancing quirks.
I will kill you with one punch.
In a single blow. As he prepares to swing, he makes a clear threat, shouting out Deku's name. He knows who inherited All for One, and once All Might is dead, Deku is next. This is meant to demoralize All Might in his final moments.
But he's like, nope.
Die full of regret.
I'm gonna take you out.
Don't look good as the mere impact of the punch, in addition to warping the space around them, kinda shatters all the bones in All Might's arm before he buffs it back up. Apparently using his muscles to hold the bones together, that's gotta hurt. Although that doesn't hold the blood in. This has gotta be the most brutal damage animation we've seen in My Hero Academia so far, and this is a series where the main character attacks by individually breaking all of his fingers. On that note, bringing Deku up doesn't have All for One's intended effect on All Might. Not only does it harden his resolve further, making him realize that he has to survive in order to reprimand Deku for putting himself in danger, it also gives him an idea. Pushing some of his strength into his back leg, All Might is able to dig in and stop sliding back, and then he takes a page out of Deku's book, transferring all the power out of his right arm and into the left, intentionally letting All for One break it so that he can dodge to the side and clobber him. This catches All for One by surprise, since he never expected that kind of trickery from the straightforward All Might, and he points out that it must be someone else's influence. Seeing All Might's shattered arm and that distinctive Deku purple, we're left to make the connection as to who on our their own. And that's not the end of All Might's tricks. All For One starts buffing up his left hand to throw a counterpunch, saying that All Might's hook was weak, but All Might reveals it was supposed to be. He didn't put his back into it. He pulled the punch in order to drop his enemy's guard, and then follow up by going full Deku, delivering the finishing blow from an unexpected angle using his already broken arm. Deku doesn't know it, but this is a huge milestone in his development. His mentor and childhood hero, the man who gave him his power, wins the final fight of his career using something that he learned from his protege. This is Deku finally giving back to the man who gave him everything. United States of Smash may just be a punch on paper, but there's a lot of weight behind it in every sense of the word. And that weight is amplified as the show takes its time building up to the final blow. Triumphant music picks up in the background as we see the spark of One For All passed down through generations to
BAM!
Offers up words of encouragement before finally handing it off to All Might. His shattered arm beefs back up and explosion goes off behind him because why not at this point? And he throws one hell of a haymaker. The animation work that went into every frame of this punch is jaw-dropping. As the camera zooms in toward All For One's terrified face, cutaways show the force of the punch traveling up from All Might's pivoting foot to his twisting hips, so he's literally putting his back into it. That's really good punching form. And finally into his fist as it plows straight into the villain's ugly mug and all the way into the ground behind him. That last tiny ember of One For All flares up into a blazing inferno that engulfs the entire screen. And through the flames, we see All Might in rough, heavily inked line art delivering one of the best punches and coolest English lines in all of anime, period. United
Amazing.
The impact is shown in a close-up to demonstrate just how badly All For One's face is getting fucked up here. Then a second wide shot to show All Might shattering the ground around the force of his fist. And finally, an extreme wide shot to show the force of the punch whipping up a tornado.
It's like throwing everything all over the place. That's a powerful punch, man.
Fundamentals of great action animation, anticipation, exaggerated impact, and follow-through taken to their logical extremes. And it makes for an awesome climax to an equally awesome fight. At last, with the fight settled, we get this somber, silent moment. The last flame of One For All finally burns out inside of All Might, and the people look on, stunned at the incredible display of power they've just seen. One For All lies unconscious in the dirt, his intimidating breather mask totally destroyed leaving his figure cut down to the fragile human underneath. And an equally fragile All Might is hunched over him, bleeding. But he's not done. Using strength he doesn't have left,
He's like,
raises his
I've got to let him know.
Back up one last time to strike a victory pose as his theme song triumphantly kicks in. In this moment, even though he's about to collapse, he strikes one last blow against All For One, dispelling the fear that he'd sown in everyone's hearts and showing them the symbol of peace that they need to believe in. That is how you finish a goddamn fight.
The aftermath.
For the people watching, All Might strikes a figure larger than life, emphasized by the camera slowly panning up his body instead of showing the whole pose at once. And the impressively animated crowd starts cheering his name. But for Deku and Bakugo standing in front of them, it's a bittersweet moment. Because they both suspect that this fight is the end of All Might, which he confirms as the sun rises over the battlefield with his declaration to the camera, "Next, it's your turn." While everyone else lets out another cheer, Deku breaks down crying, and Bakugo just stands there watching him, finally understanding both what his rescue has cost his hero and what relationship that hero has with the person he hates most. This knowledge has a heavy impact on Bakugo throughout the rest of the season.
Doesn't he?
We see in the
give
provisional license exam, it makes him even angrier, but outside of fights, he becomes more pensive. It also deepens his animosity toward Deku, and we're about to see that come to a head in the next few episodes of the anime. Having read the manga, I'll probably make at least one video out of that. But really, this fight impacts every last character in the series. The villains, though shaken, become emboldened with All Might forced into retirement, and are only going to come back stronger and in greater numbers as time goes on. With All Might out of the picture, the world now has to place its faith in other top heroes like Endeavor, who has a lot of shit to figure out on his own if he's ever going to be the kind of hero that All Might was. And Deku, though not ready to take up All Might's mantle, kinda has to now. This
Yeah,
puts him
it really
under
does.
a lot of
My
pressure to
God.
come into his own as a hero and master One for All in order to stop the threat posed by Shigaraki.
He needs to stop
and
breaking his
cronies.
bones,
and
though.
last but not least, the city is going to be paying off the repair bill for this fight for
My
a long freaking
God,
time.
yeah.
As I said at the top of this video, this is a truly standout fight, and it kinda has to be. It marks the effective end of Act 1 in My Hero Academia's broader story, and has to pull a lot of weight in shifting the status quo of the show's world. The fight gives the show's main and supporting cast a lot of opportunities to both show off and grow, and it packs a lot of great dialogue, plot progression, and character development, as well as a little bit of backstory, into less than an hour of television.
Yeah.
The emotional impact created through that storytelling contributes to a lot of the hype factor of that final punch, but it's not just the
It's
writing
amazing that
makes
they've thrown this
strong.
fight in,
On a
like,
technical
so,
level,
like...
it's extremely impressive.
Like, the show's obviously going to go on for a lot longer.
Placed at perfect moments for maximum
Throwing that
impact,
fight in
while
when they
still
did is just
keeping
like,
the animation
whoa,
throughout
what's
the
coming
rest of the
next
battle
then?
At a consistently high level of quality. Every attack feels significant in terms of how it moves the story forward, how it's thought out and executed by the combatants, and how it's executed by the animation team. The characters involved have to actually think around the layout and unique characteristics of the arena where they're fighting, and the shot composition and editing used to convey it is all absolutely on point. I could nitpick some flaws here. Sometimes Gran Torino's commentary feels a bit redundant, and if you think about it, Bakugo could have probably gotten away on his own, but really, that stuff doesn't matter in the face of the incredible moments this fight delivers. It just works. It's as close to perfect as anime fights get,
It's amazing.
building up from a
It's
great
amazing.
starting point to one of the
Amazing.
most viscerally exciting and emotionally satisfying conclusions I've had the pleasure of watching. I fully realize that not everyone loves My Hero Academia, but fights like
Why
this
wouldn't
are
you?
one of
It's
the
so
big
good.
reasons that the people who do love it so damn
It was incredible.
much.
It was incredible. The Shill.
Coverage of this fight was brought to you by our sponsor, Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, okay,
You
cool.
probably know Dollar Shave Club for the incredible value of their monthly razor subscription, and I can attest to their razors both being affordable and of remarkably high quality. They're
Cool.
pretty much the only razors I've been able to use without leaving my face scarred up like Deku after a bad fight. But they do so much more than keep
The
your
shave
face
butter.
smooth. Dollar Shave Club
clear.
now sells a
can
huge
see.
variety of
You're
bathroom
shaving.
products to help you through every stage of your morning grooming
The one white
routine.
Charlies as well.
Toothbrushes and toothpaste, to shampoo, conditioner, and cleansers for the shower, to creams and balms to keep your skin feeling smooth all day long. They've also got a variety of hairstyling products, including gel, clay, paste, and pomade.
Cool.
All made with the same high quality and same low price that Dollar Shave Club is known for.
Nice.
But you don't have to take my word for it. Head to dollarshaveclub.com/basement to get their daily essentials starter kit, and you'll be able to try out their executive razor, their easy shave butter, their aromatic lavender body
I
cleanser,
might try
and their
this.
fancy peppermint scented butt
But
wipes.
being in the UK,
all for
I'm
just
probably not
$5.
eligible.
It's a heck of a deal that's honestly worth it just for the razor and shave butter alone. Click the link in
Like
the
when the
doobly-doo or
anime
go
were
to
like, here, have $10 off the
dollarshaveclub.com/basement to
loot
get
vault.
yours
And then
today.
the t-shirts weren't being sent out to the UK,
Let me
so
know in the
whatever.
comments below what other fantastic fights you'd like to see me cover on Animelee. And while you're down there, if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button
Boom.
and subscribe to Mother's
Subscribble.
Basement to catch every video that I make from here on out.
Cool.
I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag,
Signing out from my mother's basement. That was cool. That was a really good video. Really good look at the fight that was All Might, that rhymed, versus All For One. That was amazing. That was cool. Intense. I'm so hyped. I wasn't even watching the fight. I was watching the discussion of the fight and I was just like, oh, it's so good! And if you've not watched My Hero Academia, what the hell are you doing? You need to check it out, man. It's so good. So freaking good. So yeah, that was a long video, so I'm not gonna talk too much. So thank you very much for watching, guys. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, yes, all you guys, next time.